All right, everybody, what is going on? It is another Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's an edition of Coffee and Celtics. We are going to review the week that was and take a look at the weekend ahead for our Boston Celtics. You guys know the deal. Scream with envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will. We're checking in. How you doing? How you living? And welcome into a Friday morning edition of Coffee and Celtics. As a reminder for those of you listening to the audio version, we are also live on YouTube. If you do want to join us, you want to join the conversation, make sure that you are following and subscribe to us on YouTube and across all of our social medias. We're also live on Twitter, aka X. So make sure that you guys are locked and loaded with us here. Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Menakis with a little bundle of joy in his arm this morning.
Yeah, call me the dad of the pod today.
I
Got
know,
baby
I thought
James
about
here
that.
with me. Might be taking him into daycare. Might just be a stay-at-home day with dad today. Yeah, but excited to be here, man. Excited to have some coffee, talk some C's, and talk NBA at large. Because I know we're going to be passing the rock today. I'm excited about that. That's my favorite segment by far.
Yeah, and so let's not even waste some time. Let's cue it up.
You guys ready?
What's the plan, Bobby?
We're winging it, Jerry.
Yeah! I got the rock now! I got this motherfucker now! What?
All right, for those of you that don't know, we're going to pass the rock here. So we're going to go back and forth on sometimes they're Celtics topics, sometimes they're topics about the NBA at large. Sometimes they may drift away from the NBA. Who knows? Could be a life topic. We'll see how it goes. But I'll get us started here, Greg, because I do have something that I wanted to talk with you about. Obviously, last time that you and I did a podcast, we do have a preview, by the way, of the Celtics and Bucks game, which is happening tonight as we're recording. Myself and our guy Ty Windish from our Blue Wire family, we did about a half-hour preview podcast that is already up on the audio feed, as well as you can find it on our YouTube channel. So we won't spend much time today talking about the Bucks game tonight. But if you do want to get your preview fixed before the game, we got you covered. Don't worry about that. But Greg, last time we talked, we were kind of trying to figure out the NBA Cup, right? We were trying to see how it was going to figure itself out, what was going to happen. Ultimately, the Celtics end up falling just short of qualifying for the knockout rounds. The Celtics needed the Magic to win. They did not. The Knicks, to be fair to them, put at least a scare into the Magic at different points where it was like, hey, they needed to win by 37 plus to give the Celtics a chance. They were up by 33, 35 at different points in that game in the second half. Didn't end up holding that same way. Obviously, the lead dissipated, and ultimately what we ended up with was the Celtics being the first team out, with the Hawks, who won our group, the Bucks winning their group, Group B, and then the Knicks winning Group A, with the Orlando Magic getting the wild card spot. So with that, Greg, what I want to ask you is it a problem that for the two best teams in the Eastern Conference, they now get to play each 2 games in basically about almost 10 to 11 days against two of the other worst teams in their conference? Feels like the Cavs and Celtics, two teams that did not qualify for the knockout round, actually end up getting rewarded. And in the Celtics form, they play Milwaukee tonight. They play Memphis on Saturday. After that, they don't play again until Thursday, where they get another home game against the Pistons, who they just beat. And then they have 2 more days off, followed by a game against the Wizards, who are the worst team in the NBA. And then 3 more days off before their next game. Cavs, very similar setup, except their opponents are Washington as well, and then the Nets. I don't want to say it's a massive issue, but it almost feels better that we lost than it does to have actually won this tournament.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably one of the biggest issues with the NBA Cup is them still trying to figure out exactly what's fair and what the incentive should be for teams to make it all the way to Vegas besides just getting a bag. Because I think not all 4 teams get money, right? It's just the teams in the finals. So the winners get like $1 million each, and then the losers get like 500,000 each. I think that's what it is. Shout out to our guy Fred. He says no better start to a Friday. GWE James, the Middleton Bucks should be a good day. That's right, Fred. Yeah, we'll get to the Bucks here probably in a little bit. But yeah, to finish my thought on the NBA Cup, this is why I was okay with the Celtics not making it through, because there's no real incentive other than just like pure competitive fire to win the NBA Cup this year after winning the NBA Finals last year. And I know this was always your thing with it last year. It was like, why should teams care about winning the NBA Cup, right? And the Lakers went all in. LeBron really wanted to be the first guy to win the NBA Cup. But
which, funny enough, as soon as he's eliminated, his quotes are, "I don't really care about this tournament." That was his exact quote from the season. So, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where that it's going to be a tinkering process as long as the NBA tries to make this, a staple of the NBA season. They're going to have issues with it. And as the defending champions, I thought it would be cool for them to then win the NBA Cup and potentially repeat, just to like set a precedent as to like the looking back in history 20 years from now, 50 years, 100 years from now, like, oh, doing that, like 3 championships in a matter of 12 months.
There's a term for it, right? Like, I don't know what it would become, but they swept the 2024-2025 season or something. You know what I mean? Like something to that effect. To be fair, the Celtics did try, like Joe Mazzulla, he was all in on trying for it with the, calling a timeout with 1.8 seconds left to get just another chance at the point difference. It wasn't as if the Celtics weren't trying, but it does seem backwards that, they get these long layoffs. This is the first time that we've had multiple Celtics that have been actually on injury reports over these last couple of games, right? Where we're seeing JT miss a game. That never happens. JB and Derek White missed a game last week. Drew Holiday's missed a few games. We know KP and Al are going to be balancing out, missing time. And so for the Celtics to get just a random, 2 games in 11 days, like, that's no matter what time of the year that is, that's kind of a godsend. And this is really, like I said, this is the first stretch where we've seen a little bit of injuries. We're getting a lot of Drew Peterson, a lot of Jordan Walsh in this last week, and that's because it's the first time the Celtics have ever somewhat had to deal with multiple injuries, right? And so it is a weird balance where now, the Knicks, the Magic, the Bucks, and the Hawks, and then the Hawks have been playing really good basketball lately. Like, they're gonna all go have to duel it out with each other. And then 2 of those teams are going to have to fly to Vegas. The other 2 teams are going to play each other to fill in the schedule. So that becomes, at minimum 2 games with travel that you're getting really, much better opponents than the 2 teams that you're chasing who get to feed off the bottom of the barrel. So I don't know what the solution to that is, but to your point, it doesn't feel ultimately fair, and I don't know how they fix that yet. That will be something that's something I haven't really thought of as to what they can do, but that will be interesting to see how they try to remedy that, because there's just something that doesn't feel right about it, and that's why as a Celtics fan, like, yeah, if you're there, let's try to win it, but at the same time, we're not going to go crazy over not being there, because as much as I would love more Celtics basketball, for the actual guys and the actual goal, this is probably the best long-term outcome.
Right. Yeah. And, you brought up the Hawks. That's actually one of the things that I wanted to talk today about, passing the rock. And I think it kind of ties into what the NBA Cup currently could be for some teams, like the Pacers last year, right? That was kind of a way to really solidify themselves internally, looking at themselves as actual contenders, making it to the Eastern Conference Finals after making it to the finals of the NBA Cup. I think that was a huge development for them. Obviously, they're struggling out the gate this year. But with the Atlanta Hawks, I was actually, one of the questions I had written down here, Will, was how important is the NBA Cup for them and for developing teams like them, right? So they're on a 5-game winning streak. They have wins this season over the Celtics, twice against the Cavs, the Bucks. So the 2 against the Cavs and the Bucks, that's during this 5-game winning streak, and the Knicks, right? So they've beaten the 4 best teams in the conference. They've also lost 2 times to the Wizards. They lost to the Blazers, and they lost to the Bulls 2 times, right? During their 5-game winning streak, just some numbers for you. They are 3rd in defensive rating, 7th in offensive rating, so 4th in net rating. And then overall on the season, they are 2nd in the league to the Thunder in deflections. They're 2nd in stocks. They're 3rd in assists. They're 5th in rebounds. They're 6th in free throw attempts. So, thinking about the Hawks and their upward trajectory after long being, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals 4 years ago, whatever that was. But then they've been underwhelming. But they've had pieces, right? They have all these guys that are like long and athletic, and now they've got like a new crop of long and athletic guys where DeAndre Hunter, who is supposed to be their starting forward of the future, is now coming off the bench and playing well off the bench, right? Bogdanovich, who is their starting shooting guard at times and has shown to be a big game player, is now coming off the bench. They've got Capella, they've got Okongwu, they got a whole lot of talent on this team. So it just got me thinking with this NBA Cup, let's say they win it. Let's say they win their first game and they make it to Vegas. They're playing in a big game environment. We already know what Trae Young can do in a big game environment. Are they the new Rockets? Are they the new Thunder? Are they the new Magic? Kind of 1 year away from potentially being special.
Yeah, I mean that's the inverse of the argument we just had about it being unfair that the Celtics get to do this, but on the flip side, it's teams like the Hawks and I think even the Magic belong kind of in the conversation of they get to play some big games. I know the Magic have were in the playoffs last year and took the Cavs to 7 games, but they've got a new level of confidence with Orlando, right? But sticking with the Hawks, like this is a potentially galvanizing moment for them, right? A young team, but it's really interesting, Rick, as you were kind of going through and you were referencing the conference finals run 3-4, I think about 4 years ago now at this point. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty much a new roster. I was like, well, Trae Young was there. Bogdan Bogdanović was there. Clint Capella was there. It's like they still have actually like several guys from that run that are on this team. But then, like as you mentioned, they've got the number 1 pick in Ricochet. They've got Jalen Johnson, who's been having a monster year. They've got Dyson Daniels, who's been having a monster year. They've got DeAndre Hunter now coming off the bench. Like they do have a little bit of new juice to their operation. So I think this is for the NBA Cup who the tournament probably benefits the most is a team like this, a team like the Magic, a team like the Rockets. And I can't remember where I heard this the other day, but it was I want to say maybe it was someone from the Hoop Collective, but they made a good point that guys come into the league so young now, like so few guys are playing 3-4 years and going through multiple March Madness runs or conference tournament runs, that they don't really actually have a lot of true like big game experience. So for these guys that come out after their freshman year where maybe they get upset in the second round and that's the extent of their big game, and then if they're on a team like the Hawks and they haven't really played in a big game in the first year, 2 years in the league, like this is a pretty good simulation of, getting just all the attention on you, having the spotlight on, having to perform. Vegas is obviously going to be, if you make it that far, replicate as close to the NBA can as having a Final Four environment. And so it does get those guys big game reps. So, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. The Pacers are interesting as a test case, right? Because yeah, I'm sure it made a difference for them, as far as, building some of their confidence. Do I think it led to their conference finals run? I'm going to be honest. I think probably Giannis being hurt, Dame being hurt, and the Knicks completely running out of players probably was a bigger benefit to them making the conference finals than whatever confidence they gained in the, in making the NBA Cup finals run. But that's not to say that it meant nothing. Right. And that's completely subjective. My own thoughts on that as well. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see if the Hawks are able to win a game and maybe be that surprise team that's in Vegas. Do we see them maybe when they come back go on or continue the run that they're on now? What that does to that young core that is getting these, extra exposure, these extra minutes. I mean, maybe the Hawks are a team that we need to take a little bit more seriously. I mean, the Eastern Conference, is right now it's still kind of a joke. It's stabilizing a bit with some teams getting like the Hawks and Bucks getting back to that 500 marker. But for now, there still really feels like there's 4 teams, and we'll give the Bucks some grace because of obviously Giannis getting Chris Middleton back. They kind of get a pass a little bit as far as into, okay, there's at least 5 teams to feel somewhat solid about in the East, but the Hawks may be that 6th team, and we'll see what the NBA Cup does for them.
Yeah. Well, what's your next thing on passing the rock?
Yeah. So next thing I got here, I wanted to talk about, like I said, we have a full preview here on our page that covers the Celtics and Bucks game that's happening tonight. So I'm going to skip over that for right now and jump ahead to Saturday night, where the Celtics are going to be playing the Grizzlies in what should be the first official return with Marcus Smart on the court. He did apparently get hurt last night, left, but did come back in a win that the Grizzlies had against the Kings, played about the last 6 minutes. So looks like he should be on track. Who knows? We'll have to see and what the injury reports look like, but hopefully this will actually be Marcus Smart's first return to the parquet, playing on the parquet. And my question for you, Greg, is what do you expect to feel when you see Marcus Smart on that court? Because to me, I expect to feel something, but it's not nearly as raw as it would have been last year, pre-knowing how the season was going to play out. And so I'm just curious of what your expectations are for just how you're going to feel about seeing Marcus Smart in a Grizzlies uniform, whether or not the moment has passed, or are you still going to get as emotional as we probably expected to get last season?
Yeah, I think the emotions have passed for me, honestly. I'm just happy that he's playing relatively well. So the last 5 games for him, he did have 1 0 for 7 game kind of mixed in, but he's
Yeah.
averaging 2 steals, 6 assists, and 3 made 3-pointers in his last 5 games. So it's good to see him kind of get back to the impactful Marcus Smart. He's like rebounding the ball, leading transition breaks. He's at full court passes, steals into behind the back outlet passes. He's doing all the Marcus Smart stuff that really made him special. So for me, I think I'm just going to enjoy seeing him on the court. I don't think I'm going to feel anything, to be honest with you. I was super emotional last year, but I mean, how can we continue to get emotion? Like how long do the emotions
Right.
have to last? We won a championship without him. I think we can appreciate him as a fan base. I'm sure being in the building, if they do another like tribute video for him or something like that, it would be emotional. But there's a time and place for emotions, and I think that time has passed, as you said.
Yeah, we got a comment here from our guy Rob in the chat. Emotion has passed for me. Besides, he may not be a Grizzly for long anyway. Interesting point that potentially could be on the trade block. We'll have to see. I mean, the Grizzlies. I mean, he's performing very well for the Grizzlies right now, but he's playing in a reserve role, which I think is interesting. That and that's part of the Grizzlies just having, number one, a crazy amount of depth. And he's only playing 21 and a half minutes per game. So part of that kind of load management while still playing is him. And that's the Grizzlies in general. They have nobody averaging 30 minutes per game. Even Ja and Jaren Jackson are playing 28, 27 minutes a game. So that's clearly a conscious effort by the Grizzlies, who, by the way, are no joke. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're 5th in net rating, best assist team in the league, top 3 rebounding team. Like, that's a real test for the Celtics. And I'm gonna be interested to see how that plays out. But just thinking of Marcus, yeah, I'm with you. I feel like you're a little bit more emotional than I am when it comes to like something, especially with like a guy like Marcus Smart, who like I felt like that maybe there would still be it would still hit with you a little bit more, because I was thinking about this the other night, and I was like, it's kind of just another game. Like, it's cool. Like, I'll be like, all right, cool. It's good to see Marcus out there. And like, I think if we end up getting, and I don't think it's going to turn into Grant Williams versus Jason Tatum like we got earlier this year, but if we did get a little bit of chippy, Marcus Smart action, I do think that ratchets it up to a different level. And that's, that's Marcus's game, is trying to play the mental game along with the physical game. And he's certainly less goofy than Grant Williams. So I think that could be an interesting, subplot to look for.
Well, I actually really like that Marcus is coming off the bench, just because he's going to get this moment of innovation checking into the game.
That's a good point.
So maybe I'll get emotional when he first checks in, because he's going to get a standing ovation when he checks into the game. So the emotions might well up, because like anytime, like regardless of the situation, anytime there's a large group of people, this is to your point that I get more emotional about things than you. Anytime there's a large group of people that are kind of just like feeling the same energy at the same time, I definitely get swept up in that emotion. Like going to a Celtics game and just hearing people chant "Let's go Celtics" in unison, like before a big game, like that brings tears to my eyes, like quite literally. So I would imagine, yeah, I'm probably gonna get emotional. I've changed my mind.
Here we got one in the chat here. Let's see if you can know what they're going for here, Greg, from 336 Boston. Will, I'm trying to figure out who you sound like. Who do you think they could be thinking I sound like? I'm very curious to this.
I have no idea, man. I mean, you're my best friend, and I've known you since we were 2 years old. So you
I've
sound
got a
like
lot of
you.
doppelgangers who I look like out in the world.
A lot
Sound
of
like,
doppelgangers for who you look
yeah.
like.
We've got a guy who was selling do-rags at one point. We found a guy on the grounds crew at the Red Sox that looks like me.
Dude,
I think
that guy
there's
on
a
the
few others
grounds
out
crew
there.
was your actual twin. He looked
Yeah.
exactly like you.
So
That was freaky.
for the audience, years ago, so Greg's sister used to work at the Red Sox for what, like 12, 13 years or whatever. I think this is back when she like first started working with them. So I think
Yeah,
we
when
were
she was a
either
ball girl.
yeah, we were in college, I think maybe when she sent this picture, and she happened to, or there was some photo of the grounds crew, and just in the background, you could just see this one guy, and it legitimately looks like somebody photoshopped me onto the Red Sox grounds crew. Like I couldn't tell the difference. It was that ridiculous. And so like to this day, no idea who this guy is. We never found it out. But he's one of several doppelgangers in random scenarios that have popped up across my life. So if you do think of who I sound like, this is a new uncharted territory for us here of who I sound like. So keep thinking about it as we're talking here, and see if you can come up with any guesses. I would love to know who you are trying to think of. Greg, what you got next here for Passing the Rock?
I think I can't remember if we talked about this on the pod yet. I don't think we have. I definitely tweeted about it from our Green Envy pod account and Blue Sky. But as I know that we talked about how I was going to order the Jaylen shoes, right?
Yeah.
So I pulled the trigger on the Jaylen shoes a couple weeks ago, hoping to get them shipped out in time for our men's league championship, which didn't happen last night because the
was a
refs
bit of a
did
dud.
not show up. So shout out to Austin Parks and Recreation for being organized.
Yeah, whoever's the
so
Leslie Nope of Austin, we gotta have a chat here. That was
yeah,
not
we
cool
got
last night. You gotta
yeah, that
have
was
the
not
refs know when the games are.
yeah. Then our guy Jordan, he drives an hour to get to the games.
With a
He had to drive
lacerated
an
thumb
hour.
last night.
Yeah. Felt so bad for him. But anyways, I was looking for any sort of update because the website said they were shipping in November, late November. And I was like, okay, cool. Like they're going to be shipping out. Like that's actually what's going to happen. We're going to have them. Like if people are ordering them as Christmas gifts, like they're definitely going to be there for Christmas. So I was looking everywhere. I was like commenting on 741 performance posts. I tagged Jaylen in a few posts, just trying to get some sort of information about when these shoes might ship because there was nothing out there. So I emailed the customer service, and I'm going to read the email that they sent me. It said, "Thank you for your inquiry. The pre-order for shoes started in September. The website says that delivery on the pre-orders will be at the end of November. It's December. Shoes are currently in production, and we are awaiting the actual final completion date. The update as of this week is that the shoe will finish just before Christmas. We plan to air ship in the pre-ordered shoes so that you will have them before anyone else. Once the shoes ship to you, you will get a tracking number. Shoes should not be expected to your house prior to Christmas. Thank you for supporting 741 Performance. What Jaylen is building here is huge and nothing short of miraculous. It is also a big project, and he has been very particular about building the best shoe possible for the market performance wise." So, what do you think when you hear an email like that, Will?
I mean, working in sales, it sounds like they don't have a lot of information, and they're trying to extend their window as much as they can. They hear you, they understand you, and they're working on it. Is basically what I'm getting from that email. It sounds like there's something missing in the production line. I don't know where there's a gap, but there's a gap somewhere, and that's a lot of words. If it was just, hey, sorry for the delay, they'll be here by this date, that's all that email needed to be. That was about a minute and a half of just filler to try to make you feel better. But if you know, and you're hearing some filler, and that's definitely some filler right there.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fluff, a lot of filler. But it had me thinking about Jaylen's shoes in the last part about trying to make a good shoe, right? Jaylen's obviously playing in them every game. Peyton Pritchard's been balling in them every game. And there was a tweet that our buddy Mark sent to us from the Dunk Central at the Dunk Central on X. And it's a quote from Lonzo Ball talking about the Big Baller brand of basketball shoes, where he said they were like kickball shoes. I wasn't really getting hurt like that until I started wearing them. So he's directly blaming his dad's attempt to build a shoe for his family on his injuries that have been pretty substantial. So with Jaylen, it makes me like, I would rather them take a little bit more time to make a good shoe than just like put out the Big Baller brand, the Kmart special of shoes.
Kickball shoes on your 3 sons with NBA potential. Like, dude, LeVar Ball, like, so we were kind of having this conversation while we were waiting for our refs to show up last night, with a few other guys on our team about like, hey, LeVar Ball saw the future. He did, but he's a con artist, so he saw the future, but he didn't necessarily take the proper steps. So hopefully this is Jaylen, learning from that, right? Or building something that is actual genuine, because let me know if you have, Greg. I've never seen anybody wear Big Baller brand shoes. Never heard anybody talk about them outside of LeVar Ball talk about them, or until now, his son Lonzo talking about how it potentially ruined his career, basically is what that quote says.
Yeah. And like Jaylen, he's not a con artist like LeVar Ball, but he's a free thinker like LeVar Ball. And I respect that he, went this route and is trying to build his own thing. I don't think the Matrix sunglasses are gonna be a big seller at 741 Performance. I know he's into like
that necklace thing much anymore too. He wore it all like in the postseason. I haven't seen that whatever that was supposed to do. I don't really understand.
It's supposed to be one. Have you ever heard of the concept of grounding?
Probably not, but
okay.
Tell me more.
So grounding, it's like there's positive and negative charges like in your blood, right? Mm-hmm. So apparently, I don't know which one it is, but apparently what you're supposed to do is go outside and just like stand on the ground barefoot, because it's supposed to like reduce the positive or negative charge in your body, and it's supposed to help with healing and inflammation and things like that. So I think the point of those necklaces, and that there's like substantial studies about that, but the point of necklaces is that they accomplish the same thing. There's some sort of negative or positive charge that is supposed to balance out what's in your blood. I don't know if that's actually what's happening, or if it's just a scheme. That sounds very LeVar Ball-esque. Is that? I will say that Jaylen's not a con artist, but he is trying to sell you a necklace that's supposed to flip the charges of positive and negative electrons. In your body.
Yeah. Jaylen's got some interesting ventures out there. It was funny, like as you were talking, I tried to pull up the 741 website just to peruse, and it made this like it's just like too intense of a website. Like it popped all over my headphones. Like I gotta get rid of this. I'm sorry. I can't look at this right now. This website is way too intense. All right, hold on. We have
experience with headphones on. That's what it says.
We have a response here, and let's see. I don't know if I know who this person is. Let's see what we got here. So in response to who I sound like, here's 336 Boston's follow-up. His name is CK from the C3 Panthers podcast. You guys have an identical voice. Check it out. I have no idea who that is, but I will look up this person, CK from the C3.
Wait. I have a question. 336 Boston. Is this podcast about the Carolina Panthers? And why on earth are you listening to a podcast about the Carolina Panthers? If so, shout out to you, real fan.
It is a Carolina Panthers podcast. So all right, I'm gonna have to check that out. The Carolina when Carolina Panthers podcasting and Boston Celtics podcasting meet. Apparently, it's me.
You are the Venn diagram of Celtics podcasting and Carolina Panthers podcasting. That's hilarious.
336 Boston uniting fan bases here. All right, Greg, I got one last thing here, and then if you got anything else, we can wrap up from there. I put this out on our Twitter account, X account, as well as on Blue Sky as well. We're 25% of the way through season, just about everybody in the league is, and so I just threw out there kind of like my take on who the All-Stars for the Eastern Conference, in my opinion, would be at this point. So let me read it through for the audience, and then let me know if you think I got it right, if there's something that you would adjust or what your thoughts were, but. So the way at least the way they've had it in the past, I don't know. The NBA is always changing how the All-Star format works, as we know. But typically what it's been has been 2 backcourt guys, 3 front court guys as starters On the bench, you've got 2 more backcourt guys, 3 more front court guys, and then 2 wild cards that can come from backcourt or front court. So that's how I broke it down for my All-Stars 25% of the way through the year. For starters, we had Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Jason Tatum, Giannis, and Cat. Off the bench, 2 backcourt spots, we got LaMelo and we got Darius Garland. For the 3 front court spots, we've got Franz Wagner, we've got Jaylen Brown, and we've got Evan Mobley. And then in the 2 wild card spots, we've got Derek White and Cade Cunningham. And then I made a little kind of honorable mention in the mix here. And some guys I had listed out were OG Anunoby. Peyton Pritchard, threw him on there. He's been having a hell of a season. I threw Peyton Pritchard on there. Dame Lillard, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, and RJ Barrett were the ones that I put on there as in the mix. Greg, anything that you would change or anybody that I missed?
I love this list, man. I saw that you posted this on Blue Sky. I mean, I think the Knicks, you could make an argument for OG, but the Knicks getting 3 All-Stars probably doesn't feel right. So Brunson and Cat definitely, and the fact that they got 2 starters, I think is enough for Knicks fans to shut the hell up. Like OG doesn't need to be on the team. I love Brunson and Cat. I think they're playing great basketball this year together. I can't believe how much of a 180 I've done on Cat in New York. Like I thought it was going to be a disaster, and it's working out perfectly for them. I think once they get Mitchell Robinson back and they can experiment with a 2 big lineup with Cat at the 4, like they did in Minnesota, I think
it's going to help them so much. I was thinking about the other day.
Josh Hart doesn't need to be in the start lineup.
Yeah, they have no bench. Like they need to move somebody to the bench to give them some juice to go along with Deuce McBride. I did have a comment here. I think the Hawks deserve representation. I did add both Jalen Johnson and Trae Young to my in the mix. I think those are definitely 2 guys. And and Trae Young, I think stats wise, he's always going to have an argument to be on every All-Star team. It's, we're not big Trae Young guys here, but Jalen Johnson has been playing incredibly well this year. He is a guy that I think it's probably maybe a year before. And also remember, there's no Paolo this year because he's hurt right now. So he's not going to be on this team. The whole Sixers roster is not on this right now for obvious reasons. But it is. Those are 2 guys that I think are pretty close to being able to maybe knock somebody off here. But yeah, any other question?
I think
that you see
to that point. I think with LaMelo now being out for multiple weeks, there's a chance that he won't make the All-Star team. And also he's just, he's an empty stats kind of guy. He's super talented, obviously, and he's very popular. So I would imagine the NBA would want him in the game over Jalen Johnson, just because he's like, amongst young kids, LaMelo Ball is one of the most popular athletes. Like they love LaMelo Ball. So I think that he's probably going to make it as long as he plays enough games. But I agree. I think the Hawks probably deserve some sort of representation. You're not taking off anybody of those starters, right? So Spida, Brunson, Tatum, Giannis, and Cat, they're all definitely on the team. Aside from LaMelo, you had Garland definitely on the team, right? With Cleveland being as good as they are. Franz, who's been a revelation this year, is borderline second team All NBA, so he's definitely an All-Star.
He might be the guy who maybe he starts over even, maybe not, maybe over Cat, but that's like he's not starting over Tatum or Giannis, but he might be in that starting lineup. He's been that good.
Yeah. And then, I think Jaylen Brown deserves to be on the team, especially with the Celtics success and coming off the Finals MVP last year. So I wouldn't take Jaylen off the team either. Mobley has been awesome for the Cavs, and I think the Cavs deserve 3 players because of how good they've been. So I guess you could make the argument between Cade and Jaylen, but Cade's numbers are ridiculous. He's almost averaging a triple-double, and he's been on, like, anytime Cade is playing, the Pistons are going to be competitive in that game. And then, I think the Celtics deserve three guys too. So Derek White should be on there as well. But yeah, Jalen Johnson's awesome. I love him. He's one of my favorite players. He was my pick for most improved player last year, and then he got hurt. So I love him. I think if he made it over Cade, or if he made it over one of the Mobley or Garland, I think people would be up in arms. You know what I mean? It's a deep, as bad as the conference has been, it's still a deep conference. There's so much talent in the league.
Right. And there's so many guys that I've already listed that aren't going to be, there's no Paolo, there's no Embiid, there's no Paul George, there's no, like, Tyrese Maxey has been playing, Tyrese Halliburton, who, you talked about the Pacers jump, but he's been so off this year. Scotty Barnes was an all-star last year. Like all of those guys are not even on the like in the mix, right? Like it just hasn't been the year. Jimmy Butler, it's not really the year for him in the Heat. Like Hero's been their best statistical guy as far as a case, but you're putting him on over who, right? Like that's just, there's not really an option there. So I mean that's kind of a testament to the NBA and just how deep it is. And the West is, I haven't even broached trying to figure out what the West would be, but that would be a whole other monster within itself. Anything you got, Greg, here, or is this a good place here to wrap up?
I got a homework assignment for you.
All right, let's hear it.
I want both of us to pick a Cooper Flag game to watch together. We can watch it in person, or we can just watch it on our own and then talk about it. But I want you to think about, and for the audience too, who is Cooper Flag as a player? And you can combine players as much as you want. You can do a direct comparison, A to A to B, however you want to do it. But I want to try and figure out who Cooper Flag is as a player. I've tuned into a couple games so far, so I'm starting to develop an idea of who my comparison is, but that's the homework assignment. Next week, we'll talk a little bit about Cooper Flag because I got a baby sleeping on me right now, and I got to get the workday started too.
All right, I like that. We'll take a look at Scalabrini's godson and see how he's doing out at Duke. I've watched the highlights. I haven't had a chance to watch a full game yet, so I do like that homework assignment. I'm definitely gonna lock in and check that out. Have you checked out any of the Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper stuff down at Rutgers as well?
Just highlights.
I watched a little bit of one of their games, man. Dylan Harper's probably the more solid, but the solid prospect, but like potential wise, man, Ace Bailey gives you, I mean, he gives you the Kevin Durant dreams. I don't know if that's who he'll be, but the length, the ability to kind of rise and fire, have that like, very sweet looking jump shot. Like it feels a little bit like that. So looks like it's a really good year to have a good draft pick, and there's no shortage of teams that are going to look, especially second half of the season, to get in the mix on those. But that's going to do it for this episode here of Coffee and Celtics. We appreciate you guys rocking with us, especially those of you that are in the chat today. Shout out to you guys for hanging with us. We will be back probably Sunday or Monday. Once we get past this weekend, it's kind of a light schedule for the Celtics, so that's why we're going to mix in a little Cooper Flag talk here sometime next week. Maybe work on having a guest or two join us, as the Celtics not making the NBA Cup, like we mentioned, will only have 2 games in about a 10-11 day span. So going to be a little bit content light from the Celtics perspective. So we'll see what happens, but we'll have you guys covered, no doubt about it. Appreciate you guys tuning in with us. And Greg, give us one
request from the audience. Tweet at some people that you want to see on our pod as a guest. We have some people that we're working on that are that have been guests before. That work, close with the Celtics. So we're working on getting some guests there. But if you could do us a favor, and as fans versus as us reaching out to people, just tweet at whoever it is and just let them know that they should consider hopping on Green with Envy, and then make sure you tag us as well so that we see who you want on the pod as a guest, and we'll work on getting them.
Love it. Everybody's got homework today. We're going to watch Cooper Flag. The audience is going to tell us who they want to see on the podcast. We all got to get to it. Appreciate you guys joining in. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you guys later. Peace.
Missed free throw. Horford the rebound. Here's Pritchard. He loves these. Puts it up half court of the buzzer.
Every time I get this high, I lose my mind. It don't take much no more until I hit the floor. Every time I get this high, it's you I find. It don't take much no more until I'm at your door.
I'm coming to my core, baby. What can I say? You got me on the floor, I came to play. I know I shouldn't, but you seem to take my pain away. And every time I score, Jason Tatum fade away. I close my eyes and I'm floating the river. I call to see if you open. I hope